Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. The Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We're very excited and proud to have the Executive Director for the SCGA, Mr. Mike Kelly, on the webcast this morning. Mike took the Executive Director position at the SCGA when Kevin Heaney retired last year in April. And Mike actually is a PGA of Canada member. He is from Ontario, was the CEO for Golf Ontario. He was the CEO in 2015, became the CEO in 2015, was with Golf Ontario since 2006, and has got a lot of accomplishments and 20 years of executive leadership, and comes to us from Ontario. He's got a lot of accomplishments developed in golf schools and launching Ontario Disabilities and Indigenous Championships. I'm excited to ask you about the Indigenous and Ontario Disabilities Championships you created. He also created the World Junior Golf Girls, which is held annually in Ontario. He attended Union College in Kentucky on a golf scholarship before graduating from the PGM program at the Georgian College, where he received a Board of Governors Distinguished Alumni Award. A Class A member of PGA Canada, Kelly is a 2-time zone and national award winner. Mr. Kelly, thank you very much for joining us this morning. There's actually a story, gang, about Kelly joining us. He actually volunteered to come on the webcast this morning. 72 hours ago, we had Origin Golf Designs that wasn't able to come in, so we had to make a schedule change, and Mike was flexible enough to jump in and come on and join us. I told him we'd go easy on him, but Mike, good morning. Thanks for joining us on the Catalyst webinar. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me, John. And always happy to fill in if you and Nikki, they ever, especially Nikki, she asks, I say yes. So happy to be here, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And Nikki also is going to be joining us for some commentary here shortly. But for Mike, this is your interview. Most of us in the membership, you've had the executive director position at the SCGA now for almost a year, but most of us here in the section membership probably are not as familiar with you as some others. So why don't you tell us about who you are, where you're from, how you got started in golf, and then maybe we could segue into how you got started in executive leadership.
Yeah. Again, thanks again for having me. It's been about a year, John, since I got to Southern California. And, it's funny, I was talking with somebody the other day, just when you live in warm weather, you don't really think about people in cold weather. But when you lived in cold weather all your life, all you do is think about people that live in warm weather, especially during the winter months. But it's, I'm thrilled to be here. It's still, sometimes you kind of can't believe I'm here. I'm certainly never part of the plan to be in Southern California, but I think those are some of the lessons that you learn in terms of, where your journey takes you, right? Sometimes, you might have something planned and then you take a right turn, and next thing you know, you're living in Thousand Oaks and office in Studio City. So
yeah, I can't wait to get to that. I can't wait to get to the transition into those questions on how you came to uproot yourself.
Yeah. I'm not sure I got a great answer for that, but always having your eyes open to opportunities. Those are certainly things that, I've led from one transition to another in my career. But so yes, I'm from Toronto, born and raised, in the general greater Toronto area. So it's, no,
Don't speak
terrible. I know. Yeah. It's no good. Not good at all, but it's, we've, I played competitive baseball, John, pitching, that was kind of my, I played competitive baseball before I touched a golf club. So my parents never really played a ton. So everything was driven by friends. And so I played a lot. I played travel ball till almost into ninth grade. And then transitioned to golf mainly because my friends did it. And I need to get sponsored to join private golf clubs on the road in order to, again, because my parents didn't play much golf. My parents were principles in the education. Mom was a nurse, and so it was golf was not, it was recreational at best, I'd say.
When did you start playing?
I mean, like seriously playing, probably not till I was ninth grade, which is crazy to say. I mean, and then 4 years later, I'm, playing golf in, beautiful Southeastern Kentucky on a golf scholarship. That's a whole nother story. That is an interesting part of the world. Beautiful place in the world, by the way, but interesting nonetheless. But I going on a golf scholarship, and then, I knew I wanted to be involved with golf. I mean, I think at one stage I wanted to be a sales rep. But it was, working through the club side of the business, John. It's worked pretty much from a back shop all the way up to being an associate golf professional, and worked 10 years on the club side of the business with an employer called Club Link. So it's kind of like Club Corp. They own the biggest owner operator of golf clubs in Canada. So worked at a number of properties with them in a variety of different roles. And it was at that time that in Canada, during the winter months, as I said
after
before,
Kentucky.
This is after Kentucky.
This is after Kentucky, PGM degree in hand.
Yep, and we are now north of the border again, and so when you're a golf professional in, whether you're in the Northeast or in any climate where the golf shuts down for a period of time, you got to look at you got to find something to do. And I stumbled across the idea that golf was not part of elementary or middle school curriculum in a meaningful way. And so, I mean, I always struggle with, Nikki knows this, really just opening the kimono completely in terms of different roles that I played in my golf career. But one of them was called Mr. Knickers. So, if you look this up, you can't unsee some of these things. So I'm not going to apologize. So if you decide to look this stuff up, that's on you. But Mr. Knickers was a character.
What is Mr. Knickers?
I'm telling you that it's a character that was created to introduce golf in the most fun and innovative way you could possibly think of for kids in middle school, mainly elementary, young kids. So the goal was, I created a program called Golf for Kids. So that program was kind of like supplemental, phys ed, PE for the day. So we were essentially the PE program for that day in that school. So people would come in, I'd hire other PGA professionals, and they would also get into characters, and we would be doing just making golf fun. Like we're talking, we'd snag golf, and these kids were dancing. We were doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But they left the gym thinking, wow, that was fun. And their first exposure to golf was something that they will remember. That's for sure, for a variety of reasons. But we created this program, and there was no other real program. And this was kind of at the beginning of the first tee was starting to get going with their golf program.
Was this at Golf Ontario?
No, not yet. So this is something I was doing still while I was a PGA professional at the club level in the wintertime. So we were doing this when, we're trying to find stuff to do. And quickly, again, this is me utilizing my dad's connections as principals and getting my way into schools. And gradually, this program went province-wide. And it was something that was the Golf Ontario, which would be like Southern California Golf Association up there. And they wanted the program. So they wanted me to take it and make it part of what Golf Ontario did to grow the game. So that's how I went from club to Golf Ontario, was that program. If it wasn't that program, I'm probably not sitting here for sure. And I don't know how many PGA professionals over time, not a lot, what took on the role of Mr. Knickers. I was not the only one. But probably the OG for sure. So it was.
What are some of the titles? You went to Golf Ontario in 2006.
Yeah.
CEO there in 2015. Can you tell us a little bit about the succession path to CEO?
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than the club side, John. I mean, I worked from back shop all the way different assistant golf professional all the way up to being an associate professional. Never was the head professional, but and no different at Golf Ontario. As you know, I worked as a coordinator when I first got there on golf in schools. You know, not soon after that, golf became an Olympic sport, and Olympics and government funding in Canada and in many countries is a big deal. So, you know, now all of a sudden, it's not just growing the game; it's performance. It's kind of what the U.S. is doing now, the USGA around Team USA. So it was high performance golf and getting involved in programs where kids were representing your province or the country. So it evolved into manager and then director of sport development, and then essentially a chief sport officer role, and then you know, as our longtime executive director, who you know unfortunately passed away, Dave Mills, I got an opportunity to be executive director, CEO back in 2015. So it's I just continued to plug along and evolve over time to those types of you know incremental leadership roles, I would call it. So I never made a big jump. It was little by little and plugging myself along the way, and then yeah, I was there for 7 years in that role, and you know, and there's a thing called COVID in the middle there, so that was fun.
So here we are, 7 years as the executive director of Golf Ontario. Kevin Heaney retires. You apply for the SCGA executive director position. Why and how did that come to be?
Yeah. So listen, I've got a lot of friends in the US, different conferences and events. We did a number of events in the Southeast with the Carolinas. So listen, I got to know quite a few people, and I actually didn't know Kevin retired. So I knew he was retiring at some point, but I didn't realize it had happened so quickly. And a couple of people had suggested that I look at that, and so I did. And it's one of those things where you're like, you know what? I mean, in terms of growth, like selfishly for a moment, like I'm in the biggest province, biggest golf association in Canada. So, you know, what's next for me, and how do I continue to grow? And this would be one of those opportunities. So I put my name in that hat, and it went from, this would be kind of a cool idea to holy crap, this might happen, to it's happening. And
right. I mean, it's kind of, is it similar to like being a radio disc jockey in Albuquerque and then getting an opportunity in New York City?
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it. Yeah, it's I mean, there's so much that's different, but when it comes to the golf business, there's so much that's similar as well. So it's just a different, you got to adapt, and it's bringing my family here. There's a lot to it, more than I even expected. So I was of the mind, right? Just once you get your visa, that's the hard part. That turned out to be the easy part. So getting your family down here and acclimated to Southern California and all that goes along with that, besides just the job, as others might know, if they've had to relocate to somewhere far from where they grew up, it's lots of challenges, but so many great opportunities as well.
Right. Well, it's hard enough for an individual to pick up and move to another region or another country. It's a whole nother thing to have a family and children that need to be uprooted, because I think your children they're fairly young.
Yeah, my son's in 10th grade and daughter's in 8th grade. So that's yeah, it was big. Everything is just a little bigger here. So it was just getting used to all that, but so far so good, which we're grateful for.
It looks like a big part of your success with Golf Ontario was the growth element. You were there for 7 years, COVID in the middle, golf boom, but you did add 100 new member clubs to Golf Ontario during your tenure. So obviously you were a part of riding the wave of this boom, and then you get this position here in Southern California where we're for the most part certainly comparable to Ontario. Our golf market is pretty much grown. It could continue to grow, but it's certainly not going to grow at the rate of 100 new member clubs a year or anything like that. So what are some of your first impressions this first year on the job in terms of growing golf, maintaining golf, How are you going to foster the game in your tenure?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll just back up just a little bit to some of the things you pointed out. And I think what, some of the challenges I have, we can get into, we're going to get into just, leadership and challenges with leadership, because leadership's not for the faint of heart, no matter what role you're in. But I think I'm definitely of the growth mindset. So I would call myself like, I am relentlessly pursuing solutions. That is definitely what I would say. That is, I'm grateful for being wired that way. It's not something I just decided to do. I'm always looking for, the opportunity or the solution for any problem. And, so that kind of leads to strategy. And it's, clubs do this. Everybody talks about strategic planning, but strategic thinking and planning are two different activities. And I am definitely more engaged on the strategy side. And it's one of those opportunities where for us, it's, for me, it's always been what can set us apart. And adding 100 clubs, they were already there, John, but we just continue doing our business without really engaging with the golf community at large. And so when you start showing up at the door and, spending more time with general managers like yourself, with a PGA professional, their superintendent, and building relationships around what do you need versus, hey, we got a qualifier we want you to host. Always asking versus what can we do together to grow the game? And so that's what led to some of the really cool things that we did back in Ontario, whether it was launching a couple of really cool championships or adding a bunch of new member clubs. It was because we asked, John. We asked what we can do to be of service, to add value, and what are some new ways we can do these things together as a collective. So
can you compare the collaboration similarities between Golf Ontario and PGA Canada and SCGA and SCPGA?
Yeah, I mean, that actually is an excellent point, and I'm gonna I'm thankful to Tom Addis. I'm thankful to Kevin Heaney for the partnership they created, because this is not this good in other parts of the country or North America. Let's just say North America. I mean, this should be, I think everybody here should be very proud, because it's not just the two of those gentlemen. It's everybody who leaned into that partnership and working together. I'm blessed that that was an attractive element to me. I was a board member with this section, or the zone as we called it in Canada, for 8 years. That relationship is very, very important to me. And it is together, it's amazing what you can do when we have some aligned objectives. But it is, that was very important to me. And to answer your other part of that question, John, that type of approach will continue, is working together with our clubs, with our facilities, with the golf industry, to find ways that we can work together to add value. The SCGA has an amazing set of programs, amazing people, as does the SCPGA. Thankfully, we've got an amazing foundation of people that have been constantly pushing and evolving both the organization, but golf here in this market. And I just want to continue that and play, a small role in what that might look like in the future. But to me, it's got to start with what does the community need? And every community is different. We all know that, but understanding that and finding ways that we can get more people playing the game more often, would be good, even though that's a challenge in Southern California, because as you said, the number of golf holes is not growing. And so we will have to continue to look to new ways of making the golf experience positive and people's love for the game.
So how do you see the golf landscape in Southern California changing over the next 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, so one of the things I did was we asked a collection of golf industry stakeholders here in Southern California, that actual question. So just involving our strategy and looking 10 years down the road, there's actually 5. So the question was, and actually likely there's some folks on this call who are asked that question, when the Olympics begin here in LA and in 2028, where do we want to be? What is golf going to look like? And obviously we got some pretty great responses. And I would say, we look at technology. Technology will play a major role in the game. It already has. And the onset of social media influencers and people that are really bringing their audiences to the game. And I think those will continue to be trends. Obviously, sustainability is always a hot topic here. And it's, thankfully we have some incredible people on our staff, and so does Nikki, that are constantly watching over and advocating for the sustainability of the game and ensuring that golf continues to be, the sport that is accessible by all. And I'd say that's maybe one of those. That third thing is how do we continue to ensure that golf is accessible for youth, for newcomers to the game, and that will require a dedicated, committed approach over the long term, and something we all have to do together to ensure that happens. Like I said, the number of holes that we have access to here is not growing. The demand is phenomenal right now in the sport, and we have got to really ensure that we protect what we have and make sure those opportunities to engage in the game continue. So it was a great exercise to see what the golf industry, the market here, seizes those opportunities and challenges. And certainly at the SCGA, we want to partner to ensure that this area, this region, this golf capital of the world continues to be the innovators and leaders it has been. So that's an exciting proposition for me.
Now, politically speaking, I'm sure in this year that you've been with the SCGA, you've spent a fair amount of time with Craig Kessler getting caught up on the golf political landscape in California. How does that compare or how does that parallel the golf political landscape in Canada? The similarities?
I'm definitely not getting into politics, John, but it is. But in terms of how that relates to golf, I would say my experience during COVID, and I think a lot of people's experience actually during COVID, to one degree or another, united the golf industry stakeholders that we all want the same thing. At one point, John, Ontario was the only place in the world where golf was not allowed to be played for about 6 weeks in 2021. So not 2020, 2021. And that was probably the biggest learning I ever had on how things get done. And how things get done is having a network that you can lean on to get the political into people that are in politics and serving their constituencies, trying to work with them to get a solution that is, amenable to our constituents, which is everybody who plays the game. So it is. I was lucky enough to spend some time with Craig and Kevin Fitzgerald and Matt and Nikki and everybody involved with the California Alliance for Golf. When I first got here, we went up to Sacramento, so I got opportunities to spend some time in that part of the world, and water comes up quite a bit. And although this whole atmospheric river thing, I'd never even heard of them, but that's a lot of rain I've seen here. But there's some similarities, but at the end of the day, I would say what's common and what's necessary is always working and developing and fostering that network of ambassadors for the game, but also those that have decision-making power and making sure that we're constantly fighting for the game. And and Craig and Kevin do that every single day on our end. And it is, we're grateful that we're pretty much the only state golf association that have staff dedicated to that work. And I would say there's a pretty strong argument that others should do the same. But it is, there's, like I said, a lot of commonalities, some differences for sure, but it's something that is not an SCGA only responsibility. Certainly those two gentlemen work on it every day on everybody's behalf. And I know how much the SCPGA and other stakeholders in the industry appreciate the work that they do and will continue to do. But this is something you have to foster every single day. And because it's, you can't just look for friends when you need them. You gotta have them and you in your as part of what you do every day. And when you need them, we can lean on them. And that has been definitely a part of my first year here in Southern California, is spending time with those guys.
So in that first year, what's your quick from the hip SWOT analysis of our section?
Of your section?
Yeah,
SWOT
well,
analysis?
and the SCGA. Just what are some of the golf in Southern California strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats?
Well, I always see as the threats and opportunities. Strengths and weaknesses to me is what we're currently doing really well, and certainly the current state of affairs. And I think that there's a lot that might be challenges here that are challenges across the golf industry landscape. People and hiring is also the same strength that you have here. The amount of the people that I've met, John, like yourself, they're amazing people. They care deeply about what they do. They care about their club. They care about the people they're serving. I would say, the service and dedication to the game is always going to be a strength. I think the challenge around that is continuing to find those people and being able to mentor them and coach them and get them into the game, because there's so many more opportunities now. The world has changed, so we have to change with it. And that kind of just dovetails to the threats and the opportunities. I believe this game is backed by the people that serve it, and it's only going to get tougher to for a variety of reasons to really have the pipeline, the pathway of talent that is going to take us to the next phase of the golf industry as the world continues to change at the rapid pace that it does. It's the people are always behind the product, and I've been blown away with just the people that I've met, and working with them to find solutions to any of the challenges that come. But it is, I think it's really going to be how we work together to tackle some of those challenges as we move forward as an industry that I've already talked about: sustainability, accessibility to the sport, and really the talent. I just think the talent side of this is not something that's unique to the golf industry. Everybody's dealing with this, but golf is different. I think golf is our game changer in terms of why people should come and work in the golf industry, and giving them the opportunity to find their pathway here. And I just think that's something we need to do together. And so that's my quick SWOT analysis. To me, it always focuses on the people and how we collaborate and collectively work together.
Certainly. One of the byproducts of the uptick in golf post-COVID, prior to the pandemic, obviously a big piece of the SCGA is all the member groups that you have. Mm-hmm. Those of us PGA professionals that run golf operations, public, private, prior to the pandemic, we would roll out the red carpet for SCGA groups because we appreciated the guaranteed fill on our tee sheets. Even if there was a price discount or something you had to throw in to accommodate the group, you were happy to get the tee times booked. Post-COVID, we all start getting rack rate and start filling our tee sheets without the SCGA member groups. Now these SCGA member groups, which, mind you, are filled with the right kind of golfers that are committed to the game, that play, 26 rounds a year plus. They're part of groups. They have friends. They're long. You would consider them long-term golfers. And here we are now as operators. We don't have room for those groups anymore at those rates because we're getting rack rate from the public. Now that's been a real thing since the pandemic. Now, can you provide any insight on if that's gotten any better or how that's going to get better based on the golf landscape over the next 1 to 3 years?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I mean, and I think first of all, you've hit on something that makes the SCGA incredibly unique in the AGA State Golf Association world. And that's our collection of clubs. It is amazing, the different unique clubs and why those people gather, and what makes their golf experience so special. And it's different from club to club. Jimmy Tropicana. I mean, there's so many different names to these clubs, and I think that is such a unique part. And John, where I go with this thing is I try not to get really bogged down with what the issues are at this very moment. I think we need to look long term and look at these groups as engaged golfers, avid golfers who are part of your community. So it is demand right now. I mean, golf's in a great spot. So it's, when we look pre-COVID, we're all looking for opportunities. How do we fill our tee sheets, and how do we build loyalty with our customers? And these groups are thriving, and more clubs are coming online every day. These golfers they love the sport. They love it for a variety of different reasons. But when you look at it long term, like I said, these groups are part of your individual community. They've played your clubs before. They will continue paying after. There's rising costs across the business, across in day-to-day life. And so, but I think we should all play the long game as much as we can. And I know that we all have pressures and responsibilities, and we all want to run successful business today, but it's taking a little bit of a long-term view and engaging with those clubs. I think that's such an meaningful opportunity to find ways that those clubs that have played a lot of golf at different facilities over time, what's that going to look like in the future? And it certainly is a challenge. I don't have a great answer in terms of like the silver bullet around that, but what I do know is that if we can take a longer look at this, a longer view in terms of those groups and being engaged with your facilities, and how we can work together to grow their clubs, what the facilities need. I think those are meaningful conversations to have, John. And I'm only at the beginning stages of figuring out what that is. But the saying that it takes a village, I think has always resonated with me. And there's well over 1,000 of these clubs, which is just a tremendous number, and contributed to such incredible, meaningful membership growth on the SCGA side. It is such a critically important part to us. And I think it's incumbent upon us to figure out how we can lower some of those barriers, both for the facility and for the club moving forward. And I think those conversations are really important to have.
Certainly. And Nikki Gatch is joining us. Can you hear us, Nikki?
Yep, I gotcha.
Morning. And Nikki, of course, I don't know if you've caught the last question about the SCGA member clubs and what an important core of dedicated golf fans those people are, and how we as golf operators would have a working relationship with them and accommodate them with tee time bookings, because prior to the pandemic, we as golf operators were happy to get our tee sheets filled. Post-pandemic, we're getting rack rate. There's no room for these groups anymore, where they don't have access to the tee times that they had prior to the pandemic. And we're not posing that win-win for everybody that's involved here. And that's a very important group of golfers that we serve. And just how are we going to learn to basically have our cake and eat it too, is kind of what we need to kind of figure out. Can you comment at all about, I know you guys have run into this in terms of finding host sites for SCPGA PGA events for men, women, and for seniors. It's a big challenge because everybody's so booked.
Yeah, it has been our biggest challenge, John, I would say over the last 3 years. When you look at the volume that we do with 440 junior tour events, 150 events on the professional side and our open events, that's and then you factor in chapters and that's a lot of events, and then you've got the SCGA with all the USGA qualifiers they do, and then of course the schedule they have for their membership. It's a lot, and we realize that as associations, we realize that you all are busier than you've ever been, probably in your career, or in a very, very long time, probably since the Tiger boom. But, we realize that and we just, we try to do our best. I mean, I agree with Mike. We've got to, we're in this for the long haul. There's been some facilities, unfortunately, that we won't be able to return to, more so on the junior tour side, where they've just outpriced us. And although I understand that from a business standpoint, it's nice when we've got that continued support from a lot of other facilities, knowing that, okay, maybe they're, might lose a couple bucks on this day, but hey, we're going to have over 100 juniors come out and their families, be on our property. So I appreciate those facilities and those professionals that have, continue to open their door and welcome us. I will say that it has allowed us to sort of broaden our schedule as well, as far as visiting clubs that maybe we hadn't visited before or haven't been to in a long time, in many years. So it's opened up opportunities as well. But I agree with what Mike said, that we're in this for the long haul, and we all need to work together and realize what the challenges are, but also realize that, hey, there might come a time when you need to fill those tee sheets again.
I will echo something Nikki was saying, just that, sorry, while there is challenges and we're trying to adapt and evolve our offerings to meet some of those demands, we have an amazing group of facilities that continue to support the SCGA and the SCPGA with our events. And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all of those that are trying to figure this out with us collectively, to host our junior events, our amateur events, our qualifiers for the USGA. Like, I think that's pretty cool. Like, I think it's really cool. And I think that's just a testament to this golf market, their willingness to try to figure this out with us. And I talked about the collective, working together to try to figure this out. Like, more often than not, the facility's trying to figure this out with us. And I think we really appreciate that and grateful for their support.
So something a little more personal as we get to the end of the hour here. Kevin Heaney, long-term executive director, Tom Addis, long-term executive director, friends, colleagues, collaborated millions of times over, great working relationship. Here the two of you are both finishing your first year as executive directors. Obviously, Mike, you're fish out of water in a variety of different ways, being from Canada. How is the first year of the two of your leaderships kind of parallel, and how is your relationship kind of connected over this first year?
I'll let you go first, Nikki.
All right, ladies first. I'll echo what Mike said earlier about, thanking Tom and Kevin, for what they started. Because as Mike has said, and we've said many times, as crazy as it sounds, this is not the norm for state associations and PGA sections to have the relationship and the partnership and the collaboration that we do. It's super important. It's really all that I know in my time with the section, almost 20 years, believe it or not. So it's all I know. I don't know any different. I've had the unique opportunity to sort of wear both hats, as I did serve for a few years on the board of directors, and then certainly as president of the SCGA. So got to even work closely, more closely with Kevin and the staff. And the staff will probably joke, and my fellow board members, I mean, my catchphrase the entire time was collaboration. It's just so important. And I know Mike touched on it. We've had long conversations about it. He spoke about it. It's something that we're going to continue to carry that torch. We already have. Mike and I have a great relationship. We've committed to, meeting frequently just to update each other on what's going on. We text and call frequently. We're going to go out to the LPGA event together tomorrow. We're just going to continue that that foundation that Tom and Kevin have started, and I've had an awesome time getting to know Mike. He's a great leader. He's going to do some great things for the SCGA, and we're gonna be, you know, arm in arm as we try to grow this game and continue to elevate both of our associations. You know, we're both extremely lucky to be leading, you know, two of the largest and most respected associations in this country. And we don't take that responsibility lightly. So I'm excited to be doing this right alongside Mike.
Yeah, I would say that echo everything Nikki said. You know, I think it always takes two to tango. You need two people that want to work together, that want to find ways to partner, and often that's hard to find. Where you've got two that want to work together, and obviously that was very evident with Kevin and Tom. And you know, I'm very blessed to have met Nikki in a variety of ways. And the SCPGA is like, it's so incredibly lucky to have her leading this section, and to partner with her is fantastic in how we work together, and in a variety of ways, how we'll work together in the future in new ways. And it is something that you know, I'm you know, she's a partner in everything we do, and obviously Nikki's a past president of the SCGA, so
Right.
it's there's
So
a
if I
lot
have
of
to pull
alignment
that
there.
card, I will.
Yeah, I thought I'd say that. So it's I think it's you know, just something that's worth saying. It's, you know, Nikki's been a leader on the SCGA side, not, you know,
Yes.
besides just her role. And
When were you president, Nikki, of the SCGA?
The end of 21 to the end of 22. It's a
So were
1-year
you in an
term.
honorary role during Mike's hiring last
I
year?
was, yeah, I was, they call it immediate past president, whereas we call it honorary president. So I was involved with that process for sure. Yeah, it was an interesting time, to say the least, but I feel very confident that the selection committee absolutely made the right choice, and you know, we've got the right guy in the position to elevate the SCGA even more than it has for the last 125 years.
That's great. Well, that's just about all the time we have, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Nikki, with the collaboration, because even the most engaged golf enthusiast in Southern California, many of them don't know the difference between the SCGA and the SCPGA. And, you know, just like it does on the national level with the PGA Tour and the PGA of America. So, you know, being arm in arm and connected is it's paramount. So on behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, we'd like to extend our deepest gratitude to Mike Kelly, Executive Director from the SCGA, for jumping on last minute and joining us on the webcast this morning here on the Catalyst. Also, Nikki Gatch, Executive Director for the SCPGA. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. For all the PGA members that are on this morning's call, you will receive 1 PDR credit for joining this Catalyst, and we will be convening again in 2 weeks on Thursday. Thanks again for your support. Have a great day, everybody. Mike, thank you very, very much. Nikki,
Thank you.
thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.